Okay, next to the stage, here's another inspirational and empowered woman. Author of Battle Scars Are Beautiful, which we published in 2019. Specialist in trauma recovery, coach, one of YMAG's 8 female change makers of 2020, and yet another survivor of abuse. Please welcome René Michelle, who's getting mic'd up. While they're getting mic'd up, one of the things that I really like about At the Ark and about how Karyn and I have decided to make this our cause is that when we decided we were going to, remember the podcast? We won the podcast and we made the decision right there and then we were going to put book 1 into your bags. And then after the podcast, I sat down with Vicky Jane, and Vicky Jane, who's my wife there, she and I decided, bugger it, we'll do all 3. And then I contacted Simon and I said, right, how much do they cost? And he goes, oh, cost to you, cost to you. This is the giving nature of those 2 people. And I said, hell no. So I added about another 60% onto that, and that's what we paid, which is fantastic. All right, René Michelle.
I am also a walker and talker, so please excuse me. So tonight when I arrived, I noticed we had a lot of sharp dresses in the room tonight. So to separate the true fashionistas, I'm going to give you all 5 fashion icon trends. And once I've given you all 5, you're going to yell back at me what decade I am talking about. Here we go, you ready? Leg warmers. See, I didn't even have to finish. Correct. So the 80s was not only responsible for delivering a very eclectic fashion sense, it was also responsible for delivering the Stranger Danger campaign. So the Stranger Danger campaign was all about teaching our children that strangers were dangerous. I myself, being an 80s kid, was told, do not talk to strangers. Do not get into a car with strangers. Don't take lollies from strangers. And who were strangers? Strangers were told to me, anybody I did not know. So in my mind, trying to conjure up an image of what a dangerous stranger was, this is what he looked like. In my mind, he wore a big hat and a big coat. He was always a man. He was scary looking, angry looking, and he hid in dark places and bushes, waiting to jump out and steal me away from my parents. And unfortunately, this is where the Stranger Danger premise fell short. It told us that the danger was from people we didn't know. Today, we know that up to 90% of child abuse perpetrators are known to the child. Yeah. So in 1985, when I was 10 years old, it was a morning like every other. It was a school day, and I could hear my mum getting ready for work in the kitchen. And I was in bed, it was winter, so I had my favourite yellow Tweety Bird pyjamas on, flannelette, and I was just listening to her get ready for work. I heard her make a coffee, I heard her get her breakfast ready, and the next minute I know she's like, all right, René, I'm off. Make sure you hurry up, get ready for school. Now I must have dozed off and fallen asleep, because the next thing I know, I heard my door creak slowly open. And in that moment, I froze. Everything in me went rigid. And I can remember the very next thing is that my bed covers were pulled away and somebody climbed into bed next to me. And all I can remember thinking, even to this day, it's so clear. It's okay, just stay asleep. He'll realize it's a mistake and he will leave you alone. He'll leave. Just stay asleep. Don't make a sound. Unfortunately, he did not leave, and my mother's newest boyfriend at the time proceeded to sexually abuse me. Between the ages of 10 and 16, I was abused at least 23 times at the hands of many different men. And I suffered in silence because my mum at that time was very, very mentally unwell. She was an alcoholic. And every weekend I saw her bring home these men and she looked happy. So who was I to ruin that happiness? So I stayed quiet. And as a result, I grew up with no self-worth, no value, no identity. I hated myself and I blamed myself for what was happening. I hated my appearance, and I thought my body was just a tool to be used by others. I literally had no voice, no opinion, no power. I felt invisible. Now that morning changed my life forever. Growing up, I had attempted suicide twice by the ages of 17, and by 19 almost died by another failed suicide attempt. I was a chronic self-harmer. I would cut my skin, I would hit myself, I would headbutt walls, anything to inflict what I thought was pain that I deserved for what was going on at home. So this body that I was carrying around with me that I hated so much, this is where the Stranger Danger campaign falls short, because it did not educate children on how to stay safe, on what their body, the value of their body. So when my children were quite young, I can remember, because of what I'd been through, going, this will never ever be my child's story. Now my friends thought I was pretty crazy, because I was pretty out there, I was pretty radical. And at around the age 3 and 4, I can remember sharing with my girlfriends that I taught my daughter, and later on my son, how to wash and dry themselves at bath time, independently of mum and dad. I taught them the correct words for their anatomy. Oh, that was received with major shock. You don't do that. And my children grew up feeling empowered about their bodies, very healthy. They grew up thinking their body was sacred, that it was special. They grew up knowing, feeling powerful, that this is mine, nobody else's. They had boundaries. They were encouraged not to hug or kiss anyone they did not want to. There was none of this like it was when I was a child. You must, hug Uncle so-and-so. That's rude. No, not in my house. I refuse to allow that to be their story. We need to teach our children they have a voice. Now, when my daughter was around 5, we used to go to a regular church every Sunday, and I can remember one of the young leaders, he was only about 20, pulled me aside one day and said, may need to have a bit of a talk with Cassidy. She's very affectionate. And this young man was a close friend of the family, so he was at our house most weekends. So Cassidy didn't know. It was very normal to her, and she adored him. But what it did was all the other children that he was responsible for in kids' church were now hanging off him and wanted to kiss him and hug him and, be very, very interpersonal. So I was so proud of this young man for pulling me aside and saying, hey, let's have a conversation. So we all went out that afternoon after church, and we made it a fun, casual conversation that was age appropriate for her. We did not shame her. We did not put fear into her. We did not blame her or tell her she was wrong. We actually encouraged her strengths for being such an amazing child that all the other kids were now following her and looking to her as a leader for what she could teach them. So she started to get really excited. And then we taught her about appropriate touch and consent. That's okay if you want to hug or get really close to someone like Kieran that you know, but ask first, can I give you a hug, Kieran? Because what he might say is, high five for now. Give me a hug at home when we're all together with mum and dad. It was very, very simple. It was easy. Within moments she was laughing. The tool that we gave her was an alternative. We didn't shame her. We equipped her with knowledge, with choice, and with an understanding that she deserved to feel safe at all times, but so did others. You see, empowerment is not only for our children, but for our children's peers. We want to role model. We want to show people what's appropriate by our standards and our values. We want to give our children a voice. Who remembers the old saying, children should be seen but not heard? It's my mother's favourite. Now, I can remember every function we went to, every party, it was the kids in one room and it was the adults having all the fun, all the good food, and us kids stuck with the licorice all sorts next door. It was never fun for us kids. And I can remember going in, if I had a question for mum or dad, and being ushered away. This is adult time. Is that a sign? And the kids were ushered away. This is adult time. Shush, go away. You're interrupting. Now that just reinforced my feelings of, I don't matter. Adults are more important. Children are here. Adults are up here. Adults have the power. Children have none. So because of what I went through in life with the abuse, it was just constantly reinforced to me by certain behaviours that your voice doesn't count, your feelings don't matter, and you have nothing important to say. It takes 2 minutes to turn to your child when you're at a function and say, hey babe, what do you need? Yep, listen, give them a hug, validate them. Most of the time it's nonsense, but that's okay. Validate them, and then go on your way. It takes 3 minutes to reinforce the fact that your child's voice matters. And for a child like me who grew up not believing that, that is life-saving advice. Now, the body safety programs we have today are so much better at teaching our children how to create a safety network, what's appropriate touch, what consent and boundaries look like, and it teaches them powerful, effective communication tools, tools that I never had. And it also teaches them that that is a blanket rule for everybody. Doesn't matter whether it's a family member, a teacher, a coach, a neighbour, a family friend. It is an equal playing field. The truth is, I was abused by an off-duty policeman at a family gathering, my sister's husband, my mother's boyfriends, my best friend's father at her 14th birthday sleepover, neighbours, people that my family looked up to and respected and thought the world of, and that the world looked at as respected, healthy, functioning members of the community. The truth is, abusers, unfortunately, look like you and me. They look for an opportunity for a way in, and I was a vulnerable child with no support network who didn't say boo, ever. With an absent mother who, for the most of the time, didn't notice anything that was happening with me. Not my self-harm, not my suicide attempts, not the change from this happy, bubbly, 10-year-old girl who was curious about the world to a child that was withdrawn, would wear long clothes in winter to hide what I was doing to my body, and instantly became a bedwetter, all the way through, even in high school, just from the trauma that I carried around, that I didn't speak of until I was 26 years old. So I'm here today to say I am so encouraged by this group. I'm so excited, Karyn, for your book. I couldn't wait to meet you.
You too.
And I'm so excited and encouraged because look how far we've come. We're talking about this. I want to honour every survivor in the room. Often there are people that have still not disclosed. My heart goes out to you. And if that is you tonight, please know that we're here, so many of us, that would love to support you, encourage you, walk with you, or just listen to you. Because your voice matters, your story matters. And I'm here tonight encouraged not only to celebrate you, Karyn, but celebrate the fact that we are taking a stand. We are saying no more. We are saying we will not be silent. And we are saying we are turning the tide against child abusers. No more. Enough is enough. And I want to thank you all for being a part of this amazing journey. Thank you.